In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast, we are going to talk about Duke basketball. Duke is loaded with talent. They have quite a few guys that I believe are going to be first-round picks. But we're going to find out Leif's thoughts on Cooper Flagg, Khaman Maluach, Tyrese Proctor, and which freshman is going to have the bigger impact. Also, we're going to talk about some of their newcomers, some of the transfers that they had. So stay tuned to find out Leif's thoughts on Duke's loaded and deep and talented roster for 24-25. Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Rafael Barlowe, and my co-host for today is Leif Thulin, the guy that watches more college basketball than anyone I know. He eats, sleeps, breathes college basketball. So who else better to talk to about college basketball and Duke than Leif Thulin? But before we get into this episode, I want to let you know that it is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. And if you are not subscribed to the channel, what's taking so long? Like, share, comment, but be sure to subscribe. That is the best way to help us grow the channel because we are now back to producing podcasts 5 days a week. The off season is over for basketball. So we are in season and we are, give or take a few days, around 50 days until college basketball starts. So I know that is music to your ears, Leif.
It sure is. I woke up this morning and did 2 college basketball podcasts. So I'm ready to go. My brain's in college basketball mode already. And Duke obviously is going to be everyone's favorite team to watch because Cooper Flagg's there, but there's a lot more than Cooper Flagg because they got a ton of talent. So definitely one to listen to here to see if maybe someone other than Cooper Flagg is someone your team might be interested in selecting.
All right, let's jump off the porch early with this one. Who is in your starting 5 for Duke? If it were up to you, or what do you think is the best 5 that Duke should roll out when the season tips off? And
yeah, I'll take this 2 ways. I'll tell you what I think will happen than what I would do.
Okay.
So what I think will happen is you're going to have a certainty of 3 of these guys. I think it's going to be Tyrese Proctor is going to be the point guard. Cooper Flagg's going to play in the front court. And then you're going to have Khaman Maluach at the 5. And I know some people think Malik Brown's going to play. I just don't think throughout the majority of the season you're going to take out a guy who's 7'2", a defensive rim presence, similar to that they've had of Mark Williams and Derek Lively in recent years. And now at the 2, I think Caleb Foster is pretty much locked in just because last year he started over Jared McCain. He started alongside other good players, and I know they brought in Sion James. I know there's a lot of hype about Knueppel, and there's Isaiah Evans, but I just think Foster's going to start at the 2. And then at the 3, I think it's going to be Knueppel because when there's smoke, there's a fire, and everyone on Duke Twitter, everyone in college basketball Twitter is raving about this guy, saying he's this 6'7" athlete that is super underrated athletically and is a sniper, reminds people of Grayson Allen, which is a Duke to Duke comparison, but maybe he plays the 6th man like Grayson Allen did. Something tells me he's going to start, so that's what I think will happen. I'd consider playing Knueppel at the 2 alongside Tyrese Proctor at the 1, Flagg at the 3, Mason Gillis, a Purdue transfer who just lost in the national championship game, was the most efficient player in the Big Ten, top 5 most efficient player in college basketball last year, playing alongside a superstar in Edey, shot 46% from 3, and then you play him next to Flagg and Maluach in the front. So that's what I do versus what I anticipate, but it'll be fun to see how it follows throughout the season, and I don't think it's going to be a one lineup the entire season. I think it's going to be fluid as the season grows.
So I would say that in your words, Proctor and Flagg are the only locks that you can see that are probably going to start every game.
Yeah, I think Maluach should. I just don't know. And I wouldn't be surprised if Foster starts every game either. I just think when there's smoke, there's a fire, and everyone's raving about Knueppel. I'd rather have a 6'7" guard than a guy who's just grown to be a 6'7" And I like the versatility of putting Flagg at the 3. It causes mismatches. So I'd rather go bigger than smaller if I'm Duke.
Either way you go, Duke is going to have a big lineup. I don't think anyone that you've mentioned is under 6'5". And Tyrese Proctor is a big point guard at 6'5". And I want to talk about Proctor. He's a player that coming into last season at this time last year, and I just looked at my big board 1.0 from like last August. and I had Tyrese Proctor as a top 10 pick. Maybe I was looking too deep into the performance he had against Tennessee in the NCAA tournament, where he looked like a 6'5" playmaker that can create his own offense. He has some nifty moves, step backs, was able to create space. And I thought that he was going to have like a really big sophomore year. The numbers improved gradually, but he didn't have the jump that I expected, to the point where even though a lot of people believe that 2024 wasn't a strong class, I don't even think that he was a lock to get drafted. So I thought he made the right decision to come back. But now my question for you is, what can he do in 2024-25 to regain that stock, or is it even possible to get in that top 10 range?
I think it's difficult to get to the top 10 range, particularly because there's a lot of other mouths to feed on Duke. And he almost looks better if those mouths are fed very well, because he's the point guard. He's the table setter. That Tennessee game was spectacular. So you're certainly not alone. He had 27 points against the best defense in the country that year and he just was, as a freshman, dancing around, shooting difficult shots. He was the best player in that game. So now you look at what he did last year, and what he did was he shot better than the year before, but he was the dare shooter. When you watch them play, Tyrese Proctor shot 35% from three and shooting open ones, as opposed to Jared McCain and Caleb Foster being the people that they get scouting reports want to take away. And that leads me to the question of, well, if he's not a great shooter and he's 6'5", he is a very good perimeter defender. What else does he do offensively? And you and I have discussed this. He's not great at the rim. He doesn't put that much pressure on the rim for someone who has the straight line speed that he possesses. And so my answer would be, well, he should be good in the pick and roll. He was good in flashes with Derek Lively, but last year with Filipowski, who's a pick and pop guy, you didn't see that from Proctor. So I'll be very interested to see if his stock can be something that grows when he plays alongside Khaman Maluach and Cooper Flagg, who can be rim threats and vertical spacers, allowing for him to come off of screens and create both for the shooters like Knueppel, like Caleb Foster, along with the rim threats on the lobs. So that'll be the biggest step, in my opinion, is putting pressure on the rim, both as a scorer and a passer.
And see, that's where my concerns are. Like, it's one of those things, like when you're a freshman and you show flashes, you can get drafted based off your flashes. As a sophomore, you have to build up on those flashes. And I think as a junior, and we've talked about this in other episodes, as a junior, you kind of got to dominate just because you're a little bit older. You have over 2 years of experience. And one of my concerns, which has kind of made me sour a little bit on Proctor, is when he doesn't put a lot of pressure on the rim, he doesn't get fouled, but then he doesn't get to the rim. Like, he really struggles, like, turning the corner. And it was really obvious in the Michigan State game. And there were times when I watched him throughout the season. I will admit that he did have like an ankle injury that kind of sidelined him, and maybe that had an impact. But there are times where it looks like he'll, make a move and he'll have like a straight line path to the rim, and then he'll do like a snatchback dribble, and then he'll reset. So I'm like, did he lose confidence in getting to the rim? Maybe he couldn't jump off that foot. But then you see that he only finished around 53% of his shots in the paint for the second year in a row. And so that kind of has me a little bit concerned about his NBA role. I know he takes care of the ball. He has good size. I think that he is a respectable shooter, but you don't want to be the dare shooter. And so what I'm trying to figure out is, what's his NBA role? Is he like your back end rotation guy that's like your table setter? Because he does take care of the ball, but like I said, doesn't put pressure on the rim, doesn't get fouled, isn't a great finisher in traffic at the rim, but he's also not a sniper.
Well, I think his NBA role is similar to that of defensively minded guards, and it depends the team. It's if you look at some of these teams, like a DeLon Wright, someone who in college had a big role, and now defensively is why he's out there, not because of his offensive prowess, despite putting up good numbers at Utah. You could look at someone like Dyson Daniels, who many were enamored with recently because of his defensive versatility. I'm not saying they're one-to-one, but a lot of people thought Dyson Daniels could be a point guard because he struggled bringing the ball up, honestly. So I don't know if that was the best assessment, but a lot of people believed he could be. And that's why he went number 8, because he's big and he's versatile, and you could teach him to put the pressure on the rim and be athletic defensively. Frank Ntilikina, same thing. These type of guys, I think he's a better passer and ball handler and facilitator than any of those guys I mentioned. And those guys aren't good shooters and have made the living in the league being athletic. Proctor's not quite the vertical athlete as those guys, and maybe he's not as strong, but he's a better passer, better rim protector. So I think he's somewhere in between those guys and some of the newer rookie crop of like Jamal Shedd or Reese Beekman, who were second-round picks, who are very productive in college and are defensively, that's where they hang their hat. I think he's better than those guys as an NBA prospect. So I do think he gets drafted, but probably as a second rounder.
Yeah, he's an interesting athlete to me. He's fast when he has like a runway, but lacks vertical pop, but also doesn't have a quick first step to like beat guys. So it's almost like, is he only fast in transition? Does he need it's weird. It's a weird combination of seeing a guy that's fast, not quick, but again, it doesn't have a lot of bounce around the rim. All right, when we return, we're going to talk about Caleb Foster. We're going to talk about his role and see what Leif's thoughts are on him making a big jump as a sophomore. But before we get into Caleb Foster, I want to talk to you about FanDuel. You know, FanDuel, which is America's #1 sports book. And you've heard us talk about FanDuel a lot. And FanDuel has something different for you, because now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of the NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. And all you need is a Google account, a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Once again, thank you for making the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast your first listen of the day. Now, for your second listen, you have to check out Locked On NBA podcast, because they provide daily analysis from the national, and you get local experts, and you get it in 30 minutes or less. No one keeps you as informed and as entertained as Locked On NBA. It is available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. It is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, let's talk about Caleb Foster. Caleb Foster had, an impressive debut. He had 18 points against Michigan State, ended up shooting 40% from three for the year. And you have him as your starting two, but you don't seem like you have that written in ink. Like, you seem like you have that written in pencil. What are your overall thoughts on Caleb Foster?
I'd rather play Knueppel, which is, not necessarily something that you thought you'd say at this point, because as of months ago, he wasn't high on the boards. But back to Foster, he's a good shooter, and he's a okay athlete. And that type of player projects forward as someone who's a 4th or 5th starter, both in collegiate basketball and in the NBA, if they truly excel at the shooting part of it. Yeah, he shot 40%. He was certainly a beneficiary of attention being allocated elsewhere defensively. This year, I think he'll be even more of a beneficiary of that. And that's why I think he will start, according to John Shire and the lineups they put forth, because he's a far better shooter than Sion James. And he's an established presence who's made those open shots. When Cooper Flagg is driving the ball, getting to the rim, he's going to be a guy who's left open because of the gravity that Flagg has. Now, my question about him is, this shows about the NBA draft. He's not that good of an athlete, and to me, he hits open shots. He's a good catch-and-shoot guy, but he doesn't impress me that much with his intermediate game. He is a little bit of a floater. He doesn't put that much pressure on the rim, and defensively, I'm not overly moved by his ability to move his feet or his athletic attributes. It's his wingspan, to my assessment, I don't have the numbers, doesn't look long. His length and athleticism, based on what I watched him play defense, I wasn't that impressed. So he's a good shooter, but I'm not sure that moves the needle for me. Whereas when I hear all the stuff about Knueppel and how athletic he is, maybe part of it's like he's athletic for a white guy. Like, maybe that's the unwritten thing that's being said. Like, because that's said about Flagg too. Like, you're going to see something that says sneaky athlete. No, he's like a big time athlete.
Yeah,
in bold.
Crazy. That's crazy. There's nothing sneaky about Cooper Flagg. I just saw a picture. Sorry to cut you off. I saw this picture. I guess he was playing at the Rucker Park, and it looked like, a picture of probably 50 years ago of Dr. J. He is a phenomenal athlete. There's nothing sneaky about Cooper Flagg.
Oh, right. No doubt. And so that's what I'm saying is, if Knueppel's drawing these rave reviews in terms of his shooting and athleticism, I think that speaks to that we're hearing about Khan as opposed to Foster. And I think he's going to be the one with the brighter NBA prospects. As opposed to Foster, not Proctor. And I think he's got brighter NBA prospects than Foster, the 2-guard position. And that's why I would prefer playing him and try to play that massive front court with Gillis, or you could even put Malik Brown and play the same lineup with Brown, Maluach, and Flagg, and just take away the basket at all costs, and that you give up 50 points defensively per 40 minutes, which if you're not into college basketball, that would be record set, even better than Houston and Tennessee the last few years. And I think that's legitimately feasible. That said, Duke has promised a lot of minutes to a lot of players, and I don't foresee that being a lineup they use too often.
All right, you've mentioned a name a couple of times, Knueppel. Hot name right now. What is it about him that has made people so attracted to him as a not just a long-term prospect, but someone that's going to come in and play right away for Duke, play a lot? And there's even talk that he's going to play over Isaiah Evans, who was a 5-star recruit, North Carolina Gatorade Player of the Year, the higher-ranked player. But it seems like a lot of people are leaning towards Khan having a bigger role.
Yeah, that would have sounded ludicrous if you'd said that even 6 months ago. Like, Khan was looking at Virginia and Wisconsin, 2 teams that play like pack line defense and run a blocker mover offense, meaning they just come off pin downs and shoot. And now he's going to Duke and trying to play as the Grayson Allen mold, or even a better role as a guy who's a sharpshooter and an athlete. Grayson Allen, people forget, was a dunk contest champion. Apparently, Khan's the best athlete of the backcourt at Duke. Like, based on some athletic testings that they put out, Khan's numbers were better than the other guys in the backcourt. Like, he wasn't touching as high as Khaman Maluach or Cooper Flagg, but he was jumping very high, running quickly, and he shoots the cover off the ball. And that's the first reason. But I think the reason there's a rave is he's shooting the cover off the ball. He's grown from 6'5" to 6'7", according to most people. And now you add in that athletic, you just kind of have this affinity for people that are better athletes than you think. And I think that's why he's getting so much buzz, is he's a better athlete than people foresaw, and he's that good of a shooter, and he's proven it in their scrimmages, in their closed door things. But it's the hype's getting loud enough that everyone's heard about it.
Are you a believer in the hype?
I usually am not, but in this case I am. When there's smoke, when there's this much smoke, there's got to be a fire. There's got to be something real, because you typically, like last year, the guy who actually moved me is I knew who Dalton Connect was before last season. I was researching, and I was thinking about Tennessee as a college basketball team. I was like, man, if this Connect guy is really good, they might have the best team in basketball. I was thinking about that. So then I watched a little film, and then I read an article, and it was like, Dalton Connect, why he'll be the SEC Player of the Year. And I was like, okay, like, I did a little more digging. And I'm not saying he's Dalton Connect, but the last time that I saw this much hype before a season about a player that wasn't that heralded was Connect, and surely that one panned out.
It's just crazy to see that this guy, I feel like his buzz has increased since the season, like the high school season has ended. Like, there were no games. It's all like his buzz has just been increased by rumors and stuff that people have heard, or it's just interesting to me to see a guy's stock rise. I wonder, and we can touch on this in the next segment, I wonder how much of it is his stock rising, at least in draft Twitter world, over Isaiah Evans, who was, again, the more highly touted prospect, who had a phenomenal high school career, but he only played like 5 minutes in the Nike Hoop Summit. And it just seems like since April, their, I guess, draft stock publicly has went in different directions. Now, there's some people that still see Isaiah Evans as a first-round pick. So when we return, I want to get your thoughts on Isaiah Evans. And then I also want to hear your opinion on which of Duke's transfers or newcomers is going to have the biggest impact, because they brought in a very, very impressive, I don't want to say transfer class, but I guess for lack of a better term, they brought in a good group of transfers that are expected to have a big role. But before we get into that, I want to talk about my favorite app when it comes to purchasing tickets, and that is Game Time. And it's not just tickets for sporting events. It's concerts, comedies, theaters, and more. And what I love about Game Time is they have this feature on the app where you can toggle all-in pricing, and this shows you the total upfront, so you do not get any surprise fees at checkout. Game Time also gives you a panoramic view of the seat that you're looking to buy. So you can see the seat in the app before you purchase. And they also have a lowest price guarantee, where they will credit you 110% of the difference. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. All you have to do, download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA, and you can get $20 off your first purchase. Now, terms apply. Again, all you have to do, create an account, use the redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, last segment. Isaiah Evans. Highly touted, like I mentioned. I think he averaged like 34 a game in like the state tournament or something like that. I've seen some people still think that he's a first round pick. There are people that believe that he could be the odd man out, maybe like Duke's 7th or 8th man. Some people think he's a candidate to stay there for 1 year and transfer, kind of like the whole DJ Wagner situation. What are your thoughts on Isaiah Evans? And in your opinion, do you think the lack of minutes at the Nike Hoop Summit, which is an all-star game, like it's an all-star game? I know, you don't want to spend too much time overthinking what happens in like the McDonald's All-American game or Nike Hoop Summit or Jordan Brand Classic, but a guy played 5 minutes in the Hoop Summit. And to me, since then, it just seems like people have kind of soured on him a little bit. What are your overall thoughts on Isaiah Evans?
I liked Evans for quite a while, actually. And before Khan committed to Duke, I was very excited for the tandem in the front court of Evans and Flagg. Then I don't have that much of a issue with him playing the 5 minutes. Like, I think it might be strange. I think it's weird that he didn't play that much. Who knows the reason behind it? Did he warrant the minutes? Was there something personal? Who knows? But I don't think that matters in my perception of what he is. He's a skillful scorer. And if I'm going to keep doing the Duke to Duke comparisons, he's more of the ilk of Brandon Ingram than anyone else. A thin, gifted scorer who's not necessarily a dynamic athlete, but is good with the ball in his hands. And he's a very coordinated player for his size, or for his height, I should say. And I do think that he's going to be a transfer, and then next year is going to be a good year. And strangely, I don't know why this just came to me, but the Knueppel thing reminds me a little bit of how Reed Sheppard came into the limelight in Kentucky, and he was significantly better than was Wagner. Yeah. And like Wagner was the starter to start the year, and it made sense because he was the number one player, and everyone knew about DJ Wagner and the third generation NBA player and all this. Well, he wasn't close. He wasn't good last year. And I'm not saying that's the case with Evans, but you started hearing buzz from Lexington that Sheppard and Dillingham were better than the starters, and they were by a lot. And that was just poorly managed. I don't think Shire is going to manage as poorly. And so maybe Khan's better than Evans, and maybe he's just a better fit. But I think right now I lean towards him being a better fit because, like I said, Flagg's going to have mismatches. You need to hit shots. Well, I think Evans is better with the ball in his hands, and I think it's just kind of become a convoluted area of basketball for him because Flagg's better suited to me as playing the 3 and creating mismatches, because then they can play that defensive lineup I mentioned, whether with Gillis or with Malik Brown along with Maluach. Then Evans is playing. It's more likely Evans would play the 3 than it is the 2, and you go enormous ball because now you have Foster, Sion James, Proctor, and Khan to contend with those minutes. And I don't think he's going to move up. I think Duke's just got too many pieces at the 4 and the 5 and the 1 and the 2. So he's pigeonholed at the 3. And I think that's going to be competing with Cooper Flagg and Knueppel, who are the red hot names in basketball right now.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you there. One, I think that Duke has no depth at the 1. I think it's Tyrese Proctor and Tyrese Proctor. Now I will say that, they have a lot of depth in the front court. Now, the crazy thing is, like, you mentioned Isaiah Evans and Brandon Ingram in the same sentence. I know you didn't compare them, but Brandon Ingram was the number 2 pick. And so it's hard. It's hard to predict what's going to happen. On one hand, I think Isaiah Evans is just such a talent. It's hard to like keep him off the floor a lot. But then the way you just kind of broke it down for fit made a lot of sense too. But here's the part I disagree on. I think Cooper Flagg is best at the 4. I would even play Cooper Flagg some minutes at the 5 and use him as a screener. And now you got your vertical lob threat. And I mean, Duke does have the depth to where they can tinker with different lineups and play Cooper at the 3, 4, and the 5. But I think his best advantage is at the 4. I'd rather see him kind of attacking fours off the dribble, especially if the shot, it lives up to the expectations. But I want to ask you your thoughts on Cooper Flagg's jumper. Are you a believer? It's not the prettiest shot. It's kind of like behind the head, but it goes in at a respectable rate. I mean, the numbers that I saw over like 27 games at Montverde last year, he's around 34% from 3. But you factor in that they weren't all just catch and shoot threes. It was coming off the move. It was some off the dribble. 34% is respectable, especially it's a big advantage if he's playing the 4. But are you a believer in his jump shot?
Yeah, and I do believe that his best advantage in college basketball is at the 4. Duke just likes to play players at the 3, and even Tatum, Banchero, I know is a 4, but they play a lot of minutes with the ball in the hand for their top guys, and that's why I foresee him playing a lot of 3 to appease that of Gillis and Brown as transfers. But to your question about his shot, I am a believer in Cooper Flagg's shot as far as it goes in no matter at a decent rate, no matter the way he shoots it. It's not necessarily just catch and shoot, and you're like, well, that's a convoluted way to shoot the ball. Like you'd rather just kind of come up and catch and shoot as opposed to behind his head and a little bit off to the right. Well, I think the fact that he's been efficient on catch and shoot on the move, off the dribble, and mid-range all with the same release means that there's indicators that he's got good touch, and those will only get better in time, in my opinion. Now, is Montverde or any all-star game really an indicator of ability to shoot the ball? Not in my opinion. I know Montverde plays good competition, but they're better than everyone they play. And obviously Flagg's an enormous reason for that. So I'm curious to see how well he shooting catch and shoots at the college level, a little bit further away, more defensive intensity, more scouting. But I'm a general believer in his shot. I don't think it's ever going to be the strongest part of his game. I think it'll be set up because he's such a threat to drive and such a threat attacking the rim that he'll always be preferred to let shoot than he is to attack. So I think his shot's good enough to punish people, but I don't think it's ever going to be a strength so much so that he's played the inverse of what I said in terms of he'll always be played to shoot as opposed to played to drive.
All right, question for you. Kyle Filipowski came into college with a reputation as a shooter, but he shot 28% from 3 as a freshman on 124 attempts. Do you think Cooper Flagg will have better numbers from 3 as a freshman than Kyle Filipowski?
You said Filipowski was 24% as a freshman?
28.
28?
Yeah.
Either way,
on
yes.
124 attempts.
Yeah. No, either way, yes. I've long been critical, even though he's on my Utah Jazz now, I've long been critical of Kyle Filipowski. I think he's actually a good fit for the Jazz, but for a long time, his freshman year, I came on, I think one of the first times I was on here talking about his freshman class, and I was like, I'm not even considering him a prospect yet because he's not shooting the ball and he's not physical enough to be a 5. If he plays the 4 in the NBA, that's great. But to answer your question, yes, I think Flagg's going to shoot better than Filipowski did. And I think Flagg, honestly, he's getting a lot of hype, a lot of buzz. I think he's going to be the National Player of the Year. Like, I think he's going to overachieve, if that's even possible. I think if you're
over Mark Sears,
over Mark Sears, over Hunter Dickinson, over Ryan Kalkbrenner, I think Duke's going to be a top 4 team in the country, and Cooper Flagg is going to be a phenomenon like the way Sion was. Now it just depends on the health of him and the rest of the team on how well they truly compete, because that's their goal. And I don't think it's like a showcase. I've long been critical of Kentucky. They showcase their talent, but they haven't been playing to win under Calipari. I think Duke and Shire know that it's the 3rd year. Let's go get a championship. And I don't like Duke whatsoever. I hope this doesn't happen. But I just think that Flagg is the right type of build and mentality to win a title. And their team is well suited to do so because they have the NIL money. They've went and found the players that they wanted to get and the players that wanted to go to Duke. Yes, there might be some odd ones out. Like I said, Isaiah Evans might be a guy who's left behind, but maybe he has a really good game in one of those preseason tournaments. And you're like, well, now the future's slotted. Maybe Caleb Foster is off the bench and Evans plays the starting 2 and you're enormous. I don't know, but I just think that Flagg is that type of driven special player who's going to make a defensive impact and offensive impact similar to the way that Anthony Davis did.
All right. Last question. I had a couple more, but we are running out of time. Which of their talented newcomers do you think is going to have the biggest impact? You got Sion James, who averaged, he stuffed the stat sheet like 15 points a game or something like that. He shot 38% from three. Then you got Mason Gillis, who you mentioned earlier. Then you got Malik Brown, who was all ACC on defense. Which of those three do you think makes the biggest impact?
Mason Gillis, because Mason Gillis is a different version of Emil Jefferson. And for those of you who don't know who Emil Jefferson is, the team that had Jahlil Okafor, Justice Winslow, Tyus Jones as the freshman, they also had Quinn Cook and Emil Jefferson in the starting lineup. He's the veteran presence, someone who's competed for a national title, played alongside the National Player of the Year, and knows how to complement stars. He's the guy that I think should start alongside Flagg and Maluach because he shoots well, he rebounds, and every 50-50 ball is turned into an 80-20 ball with Mason Gillis on the floor. He's the type of guy who's a veteran on defense and offensively doesn't need high usage, will score 6 points a game, but hit you an open three when it matters and get you critical rebounds all the time. If Duke really is that good of a team that I think they can be, Mason Gillis will play a lot because he's a winning basketball player.
All right, actually, I got a couple more questions. These are quick hitters. Maluach, top 5 pick, yes or no?
I would have said 5 or 6, so I've got him 6 on my board right now, so I'll go no, but I'm very, very close to 5. So,
all right, so let's just say 6. So you have Flagg and Maluach. So you got 2 guys that are in the top 6 in a talented 2025 draft. Who is Duke's third best NBA prospect on this roster?
Isaiah Evans. And even though Isaiah Evans, I think, is going to be the odd one out based on what I hear, based on my basketball intel, I think he might be the third best on this team in terms of his pro prospects. I think it may take a transfer, or maybe he comes back for a second year and is more featured. Who knows? Depending how that team lines up, because surely they'll get a lot of talent too. But he's just got the unteachable skills of being able to score at will and having plus size for a wing. So I'll go with Isaiah Evans. Then Knueppel, I'm willing to say I want to see him and play college basketball before I go fully on board the hype train to give him that lottery praise that some are already handing over.
Oh, I haven't seen the lottery phrase, but
hey. College basketball Twitter is a place, man. I'm telling you, he's getting some serious buzz.
Yeah, you can never discount somebody's opinion, because if you would have told people last year at this time Justin Edwards wouldn't get drafted, DJ Wagner, Aaron Bradshaw, all of those guys will be back for their second year, people would have told you that you were crazy. So you can't really discount anybody's opinion when it comes to the draft, because when we do these shows so early in the season, a lot of times we're just totally wrong. So I respect everybody's opinion. Well, that wraps up this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast. Once again, thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Now, for your second listen, go find Locked On NBA, where the local experts keep you updated daily, every single day, on all the biggest storylines ahead of the season. You can find Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Once again, it's Rafael Barlowe with my co-host Leif Thulin. We talked about Duke. Let us know your opinions. Who do you think is Duke's best NBA prospect outside of Cooper Flagg? And also, who do you think will be in their starting 5? Once again, it's Rafael and Leif, and we are